Wasabi everybody, today I would like to talk about 10 bad commanders, not in any order. This is just something kind of like with my underrated cards videos. I just picked 10 of them and I'm going to talk about them. Before I get started, I would like to remind you that most of you who are watching the video right now are not actually subscribed to the channel, so I really do appreciate you clicking on that subscribe button and the notification bell, really helping out the channel here. We are moving well past 20,000 and we're going to keep going, we're going to keep pushing it. So before, I've made videos about bad commanders that I think are bad, and before I really focused on commanders that could never really be good because there was some limitation with the commander rulings, the fact that it's a singleton format, anything like that where you couldn't interact with the commander from the command zone for some reason. But I'm going to talk about 10 commanders that are just not very good. You could still make decks around them if you want to, it's not impossible, but there are several better commanders in each of these colors. Each of these color combinations, whatever you choose. So the first one here is Takeno Samurai General. Now Bushido, not a very good ability. It's not the worst ability, but it is perhaps one of the more boring ones. It is more samurai focused, going back to Kamigawa. And Takeno's ability specifically is Bushido 2, so whenever he blocks or becomes blocked, he's going to get +2/+2 until end of turn. And each other samurai you control gets +1/+1 for each point of Bushido it has, so it's kind of like a samurai anthem for other Bushido samurai. This is a bad commander because it really depends on getting more support in the future, and even then, it's just more power and toughness. It's conditional power and toughness for a 6 mana commander who's a 3/3. The next commander option here is Illyrios Enraptured. Now I know the biggest criticism of this video is going to be, well Void, most of these cards that are legendary, they're not meant to be commanders always, and some were created before the format was even really a thing. And yeah, I know. This is just me acknowledging the fact that because they're legendary creatures, you can play them as commanders. They're just not very good. Illyrios is pretty awful. Enters the battlefield tapped, doesn't untap during your untap step if you control a reflection. The reflection token is created when he enters the battlefield and you get a 3/2 reflection creature token with no abilities. You do get 2 creatures for 3 mana, which is the only good thing about this. If you do have a way to blank him, you're going to get more of those tokens, but is that really what you want? Is that really what you can take advantage of in blue? Probably not, and even if you are going to be playing blank in blue, you have better things to do like drawing cards. Why do you need 3/2 creature tokens? The next creature here is Karizev Skyship Raider. Now Karizev is not a horrible one, just not a good one. Kind of a bad one. First strike in Menace, whenever she attacks, you create a legendary 2/1 red monkey creature token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking. Exile that token at the end of combat. So you get good keywords here, you do get a 2/1 monkey that can attack, but this is not the kind of aggro that you want. This isn't going to lead to you getting more tokens, more monkeys. It's a legendary monkey, so even if that were true, you're going to have to sack them to the legend rule, but you do have combat here with a 1 power commander option. So while it's certainly doable, it's like bringing a toothpick to a sword fight. The next commander option here is Serac the Hunt Caller. Now Serac here is not a bad card, just a bad commander in my opinion. 4 mana and green, formidable at the beginning of combat on your turn. If creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Now that right there is actually super doable because he's already 5 power and all you need is 3 more power in creatures and you can give a creature haste, but that's it. You're working to 8 power on your field just so you can give a creature haste. Now, I guess the argument that can be made for this commander is that haste isn't super common, but that's all you're playing this commander for. There's no other interaction here, it's just make other creatures quicker. And there are better ways of making creatures bigger, there are better ways of giving creatures keywords in green. Serac is just incredibly unremarkable. The next commander here is Tymaret the Murder King. Tymaret, when we talk about costs and what is totally not worth it in Commander, I think of Tymaret all the time, or Timaret, however you pronounce his name. The first ability reads, you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice another creature, and he deals 2 damage to target player. Now, I know what you're saying. Anytime you can burn, you can take advantage of that. If you have a Torbrand, you can make that even more damage. But this would be so much better if you could deal 2 damage to a creature, and we all know it. Sacrificing a creature and paying 2 mana, that's way too much of a cost in order to just hit someone for 2. You're just shocking them for 2 damage. And in red and black, you do have some creature token support, you do have some ways of abusing this, so that you constantly get a creature to sacrifice, but that's not worth it. You don't have a ton of mana to use that ability with. And then the second ability is pay 2 mana and sacrifice a creature to return Tymaret from your graveyard to your hand. So he does have a way of constantly bringing himself back. You don't always have to pay that commander tax, but again, you have to pay 2 mana and sacrifice a creature, which might be too high of a cost for some people. Just not really much here, not much of a win con here. What would at first seem like a really efficient commander, getting around that commander tax only costing you 2 mana to play, really is just held back by just limited strength all around. The next commander here is Radha, Heir to Keld. Now, Radha's not a bad card, just a mana dork for a commander, and that's really all she is. She does have this weird condition where whenever she attacks, you add 2 red to your pool, but that's all you're going to think about here is what can I cast during combat. The green you can just tap for and play other creatures, so I guess that's good. Really, she's a bad commander because there's not much you can do with any focus. It's just good stuff Gruul if that's the direction you want to go in. And there are several better commander options to do that with. And there are several better Radhas to play commander with. She is a cheaper commander. Again, it's kind of like with Tymaret, but you're just so limited here. There's not really a lot of focus. What exactly are we doing here? And then the next commander option here is Ghost Council of Orzhova. This is the one Orzhov colored commander option I am always hesitant to play. And I love Orzhov. Orzhov's my favorite 2-color combination. But when you talk about just gaining life in commander, this is the slowest way of gaining life. It's the slowest way of taking life away from your opponents. And at the cost of doing this, you have to pay a mana and sacrifice a creature. Kinda like with Tymaret again. The cost of doing this is just so high and you do so little with it. Now the other Ghost Council card is better because at least you don't have to pay that cost, and the life gain and life loss is a little more substantial, but this one definitely is one of the worst, if not the worst, Orzhov commander option of all time. And then we have Storev Devkarin Lich. This is from War of the Spark, and one of the most, again, we're talking about a boring commander here in Golgari colors. Golgari already has a ton of cards that will allow you to get cards back from your graveyard to your hand, doesn't matter the card type. So at first you might be like, well, Void, this will allow you to get back Planeswalkers. Well, so will just about any other green card like Eternal Witness, Regrowth. They also allow you to get back Planeswalkers and more, so having essentially that, but on something even more restrictive, like you need to deal combat damage, you need to get that trigger in order to get back a card. And get this, there's a limitation on that too. So it can't be a card that was put in there this combat. You do have to pay attention to when you're dealing combat damage. But that's all this commander option is. It's just deal combat damage, get a card back from your graveyard. Not very inspiring. And the next card here is Razzia Boros Archangel, a massive 8-mana angel. I know this is another older card, and we can't exactly hold it up to the standard of 2021 Commander. But I do think we should pay attention to the cards that see the least play in Commander, and this is one that doesn't see much play, if at all. Razzia has 3 keywords here, so that's really why she's good. She has Flying, Vigilance, and Haste. So you can use her activated ability. You can tap the next 3 damage that would be dealt to target creature you control this turn is dealt to another target creature instead. So you have ways of manipulating that. You can have that damage dealt to an opponent's creature. You can fool around with that removal, but we're talking about 8 mana for your commander in Boros. And it's only 3 damage. So if you were looking to pay 8 mana for a commander, I mean, let's just look at Gisela Blade of Gold Knight. Here's an example of a commander that you're also going to spend more mana on, but it's well worth it, and you know why. Razzia is incredibly limited in commander, and was clearly only intended for 60 card, standard play, limited play, 1v1. And then the last card here to talk about is Nostro, Voice of the Crags. Now this is the newest commander here for this video, and Nostro is incredibly unremarkable compared to your alternatives in Jeskai colors. You have a tap ability here where you can choose one, X is the number of spells you cast this turn, which is good, it's flexible. It counts your other non-instants and sorceries compared to others in Jeskai. Kind of like Storm, you have to pay attention. You can scry X, that's the first mode. You can have it deal X damage to target creature, or you can gain X life. And that's really just once a turn. Yes, you could abuse that, you could untap it, you could deal more damage to more creatures, but it's very limited in what you're able to do. Scrying X is really not that impressive, and if you can only choose one, you're probably going to opt for the damage. I'm going to say this is probably the most playable commander on this list, but really only because it just offers you more to do with. But by comparison to your alternatives, just not very good. It requires too much of a setup in order to really take advantage of that, and even once you do, it's a tap ability that needs haste, it's a tap ability that you're going to want to abuse with some way of untapping it. If you're not comboing with Nostro, I don't think you're going to be able to do much. It's just you have better card draw, you have better uses of building up a storm count in these colors. So Nostro is kind of a buzzkill. But anyway, let me know what you think about these 10 commanders. Do you think they're bad or do you think they're good? Always open for disagreements in the comment section below, and if you have not already, please subscribe, like, comment, share, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Void here signing off. See you all next time.